Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be looking at how to create pagination using Next.js, and this is the project we are going to create. And as you can see, the pagination works well, and also it works as standalone pages. So if I'm to come to my address bar, let's say and put page 10, or let me just say page 8, you can see how beautifully that is done. And for you to go along with this project, you are going to need few things. One of them is Node.js. If you don't have Node.js installed, you can just go to nodejs.org, go to the download section, and select your operating system and download Node.js. But if you already have, you can go to your favorite code editor, and let's get started creating this project. Now I'm in my code editor, which is Visual Studio Code. I'm just going to go ahead and open a new folder, and I'll call this folder Pagination Tutorial. And because of Next.js namespace convention, you can't leave a space, so I'll just put a dash here, and I'll select this folder. And I'm going to go ahead and open my terminal. And I'll just do npx create next app, which will install Next.js. And I'll just add this dot, so it will be installed in my current directory, which is this. And I'm prompted to use to select my setting. So I'm just going to go no. And we are using TypeScript, ESLint, no. We are using Tailwind CSS, no. And we are also using the app router and TurboPack, and no. So we'll just hold on a bit for the dependencies to be installed. Now once our dependencies are installed, I'm just going to go ahead and run server. So npm run dev to run our server. And it says our server is running at localhost 3000. So let me just head to my browser, localhost 3000. And as you can see, we have the default Next.js boilerplate. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete everything to start my code afresh. And so I'm just going to go to my page.tsx, and I'll select everything and just delete it and create a new React component. And I'll call this home. Also, I'm going to head to my global.css file, and we'll just delete about everything and just leave the Tailwind import. And if I go to my browser, you can see all we have is the text from page.tsx. We also need to create a folder, and we'll call this folder lib, and it will have two files actually. One of them will be movies.ts, and those will just act as our database just for this tutorial. In real life scenario, you will be using a real database. And let's just create its type. It's going to have a title of type string and image, which will be the image URL, also of type string. And let's create our constants. So let's export constant movies of type movies, and it will be an array. And I have this list of movies, so you can just go ahead and copy them, or you use yours. And let me just copy the folder having all the movies images to our project. So if we come to Visual Studio now, under public you can see our movie images. And I'm just going to go ahead and delete this last S. So this should be movie rather, and we can get rid of these two files. And on our main page, we won't write much, just an H1 that's saying my wish list. And let me give this some styles. And let me also give some styles to the container. And let me just see how that looks on our browser. So this is just it. Next, we need to display our images, our movie images under. And for that, I'm going to create a separate component, and we'll call this movies.tsx. And this will be a React component. And then I'll import it here, just under our header. So ensure that movies is imported here. And I'm going to pass some properties to these movies, but before we do that, let's create a prop. And this prop is going to contain search params, which will in turn return a promise. This should be optional. So this will return a promise. And this will contain the variable name page. This is also optional, and it will be of type string. And I'm going to create some constants. I'll explain the purpose of each of the constants shortly. So the first one, we have cost search params. And we are using await, so I'm just going to go ahead and make this an async function. And you can see I'm already having much of the code being auto-completed, but I'm just typing it by myself. And that's where AI has its advantages. And these movies, I'm having an error here because we have not imported movies, so I'll just go ahead and import it. So we are importing movies from lib/movies, which is the list of movies we created here. And so all we are saying here is we want to get a parameter from the address bar, an optional parameter called page, and the items we want shown per page is 4, which you can edit. And then the total page is just a simple formula, which is the number of the length of the movies we have divided by items per page. And so I'm going to pass this as a parameter for our movies. So we have items per page, and this will be equals to items per page. And then we have current page, which will also be equals to current page. And we are getting an error here because we have not done enable that here. So I'm just going to add props here, some properties here. So we'll say items per page and then current page. And I'm going to give them types, and items per page will be type of number, and current page will also be type of number. Now we can see the error. It's no longer showing error here. So we can move on. And for the movies, we are simply just going to have a grid of our movies. So let me create a div, and this div will be a grid container, and it should have 4 columns. And so we still need to import our movies. So we'll do import movies from lib/movies, and I'm going to map out those movies. So let's do movies.map. And this movie, we are mapping each movie, and it should be also of type movie. So let me just go ahead and copy our previously declared type here. So let me just copy this and paste it here. And so this will just be a div with an image. And we are using the Next.js image, so you need to import that. So you import, where is it? Okay, I've not imported it. Okay, sorry, image from next/image. And it's going to have a source attribute of movies.img, and alt will be movie.title, and let me just give it a width, let's say width 500, and height, let's give it 650. And so I'm just going to give some styles to make sure it's rounded. And let me give it an height, let's say 80. Also, let me give this container a key attribute, and this key will be movie.title. And let me also give it a class. I'm sorry. Class, let's say overflow hidden. So if we come to our browser, we should see our images. So you can see our images. That's beautifully done. But that's not what we want. We want just 4 or whatever number we set to be shown. And we're going to implement that just now. So I'm going to create some constants, and I'll also explain what each of these constants is doing in a bit. Let's have start index. The way this AI is predicting every of my move, I'm loving it. So another constant, let's say end index, and we have const, let's say, okay, movie to show. Let's follow the AI. Movie to show, and this will be movies dot slice, and we are slicing from start index to end index. And so we are going to change this from movies to show. So we are only showing a subsection of the entire movies. So if I come here, you can see we only have 4 movies. But if I, for instance, let me change this from 4, let's say 8, let's double the value. You can then see we're having only 8. So I'm going to switch this back to 4. And also, you will notice, let me just do this. Let me add a parameter here. And let's say page is equals to, let's say 2. Sorry, okay, I did that wrong, sorry. Let's say page is equals to 2. You can see we have page 2, that is the next in line. And let's say page is equals to 3, we'll see the third page. So all our pagination will be doing is to automate this process instead of typing it by hand by ourselves. So let me just switch back to our main page. And so next up, we are going to be creating our pagination. I like to keep my code simple, so also we are going to create a component, a separate component for that, and we'll call it pagination.txs. After that, I'm just going to go to page.tsx and import pagination. And pagination should also have some properties, being current page, and total pages. And let me come to pagination and add those properties. And so we have current page and total pages. And these are all of type number. And before we proceed further, I'm just going to install some packages. So I'm installing Lucid React for icons and CLSX for conditional CSS. So once that is done, let me just go ahead and delete this terminal. We are going to create a container, a flex container. So let me just give this a style of inline flex. And let me give this container a width of fit. It's a class name. And this is just to make it stay at the middle. Let me also give it a margin. Let's say margin top 10. And this container will contain our link. And this should be linked from next/link. So you make sure it's imported. And the link should have href. And I'll just leave this blank for now, because we have to create a function to generate that link. And our class name, we are going to be using CLSX rather. And so let me just add some names. And inside this link, we are going to have an icon, and the name of the icon is move left, and it's going to be from Lucid React. So you make sure it gets imported, and we need to also import CLSX. So import that. And so as I said earlier, CLSX is just used for conditional rendering. So as you can see, all we are saying here is if current page is less than 1, we want the pointer event none to be triggered, and we want the opacity to be at 50%. And so I'm just going to go ahead and copy this for our right button. And let me paste this here. And this rather should be if it's greater than our total page. And so to generate the link that will take us to the next page, I need to create a function. And so let me just go ahead and create and do that. And I'll explain all this code in a bit, so just hold on. Oh. So we are using use search params. So you also make sure it gets imported, and we are going to create our function. So all this function is doing is this. It's going to receive page number, which should be a number or a string, and it's going to set that as a parameter in the address bar, and it's going to return the URL link to that address. And so to generate a new link, our href will just have to be that function. So let's say create page URL, and this will be current page because we are moving left. This will be current page -1, and to go to the next page, it will be current page +1. So current page +1. Also, this is using the client, so we need to specify this as a client code. So use client. So let's head to our browser and see what we have done so far. Okay, we're having two lefts. So this should be use move right, sorry. All right. And so now we have our two buttons, and as you can see, this takes me to the next page. And once I'm at the first page or the last page, it automatically just get disabled. So now for the next part, what will appear, the numbers that will appear in between these arrows. But before we do that, we are going to create a utils file here under library, and it will just contain a function. Like I said, I prefer keeping different section of code separate just to make the work neater. Now this will be an exported function, so we'll just do export, and I'll call this generate pagination. And it's going to receive current page and total pages as parameters. And also I'll explain this in a bit, so just follow along. Now I'm done with this function, so I'm just going to head back to pagination.tsx. I'll come back to that function to explain how it works. So I'm going to create a constant called all pages, and this will reference our function generate pagination. So you make sure it gets imported, and I'm going to pass current page and total pages as parameters. Also, I'm going to go ahead and create a React component, and we are going to call this pagination number. So let's do function pagination number. And this is going to have some properties. So let me just go ahead and declare them. We have page, href is active, and position. Also, let me state their types. And so page will be of type number or string. Href will be of type string. Is active will be boolean, and position will be any of this string. Also, I will just create a constant, and let's call this constant class name. Here's going to have all the classes we want to use, and it's going to be a CLS X variable. So I'm getting an error here. Okay, sorry. So that should do it. So we are done with the styling. So let me just go ahead and finish up with our main code. So I'll also come back and explain how this function works. But essentially what we are doing is we are saying if this active variable is true, all we want is for this code to be executed. And if it's not, we want this code to be executed. So if the position is at the middle, we want it to just be a box, just be a container with a border, else we want to generate a link. So we'll see how everything is working once I'm done with the code. And next up, we are going to create the actual display. So let me come here and create and we're going to map out this all pages. So let me just go ahead and do that. But first off, let me create our container. So we are going to have a div here. And I'll just give this a class name of flex. So everything will be on the same line. And let me give it a space. And now we can map out all pages. So let's do all pages dot map. And this will have page and our index. And let me create the variable called position. So let position, and this will contain all our position. And these are its types. So we have first, or last, or middle, or single. Or it can be undefined. And to just get rid of these errors temporarily, I'm just going to return, let me just return 0. So we are going to do some comparison here. So if our index is equals to 0, our position will be equals to first, equal to rather first. Let me just go ahead and copy this. And let me just paste it here. So if our index is equal to all pages, that's if our index is the last page, so all pages dot length minus 1, since our index is starting from 0, so our position is going to be last. And if all pages, the length of our pages is equal to 1, we know we have a single page. And lastly, if our page is equal to this string dot dot dot, we will know we have This is the middle page and cannot be clickable. I'm getting an error here, so this position should be last. And now we can head back to our return statement, and this is just going to return the component we just created. So pagination number, and this will have a key. And our href will be create page URL. The function we created up here. So it will be create page URL to generate a URL. And we are going to pass page to it. We're also going to have page, which will be equals to page. Let me just bring this down. We have position, which will also be equal to position. And lastly, we have is active, which will check if current page is equal to page. Also, I'm getting an error here. Let me just check this. And so we are getting the error undefined is not unable to type. That's because positions should actually be optional. So let me go ahead to our component. So position should be optional. Yeah, and now we are getting rid of our error. So let's just come to our browser and see what we have done so far. And so you can see now we have our pagination. And when I click on this, you can see how beautifully that has been created. But we haven't limited movies. That's why we're just having 1, 2, 3 pages. So let me just go ahead and add some movie titles. So let me come to our movie.ts and let's just copy this. And I'm going to just paste it several times. Let's say 4 times. And let's head back to our browser. And you can see now we have 13 pages. And let me just come to page 12. You can see how that has been beautifully created. And now let me just explain how all the code we have created works, so you understand better. And like I said, let me come back to our function. So all this function is doing is going to generate some array for us. And all we are saying is if total pages is less than 7, we just want to return the list. And that is why when we have a limited list, you saw we only have 1 to 3 pages without this middle box appearing. And if that is not satisfied, if our current pages is less than or equals to 3, we are going to show 1, 2, 3, and then this dot dot dot, and then this last 2 pages. And that is the same thing you are seeing here. We have 1, 2, 3. Sorry, that is if our page is either 1 is less than 3, which is 1, 2, 3. That's what it's going to show. It's going to show 1, 2, 3. This dot 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 here, and then the last 2 pages. That's all this part is saying. And next up, it says if our current pages is greater or equals to pages minus 2. So if our current pages is greater or equals to pages minus 2, it's going to show 1, 2, dot dot dot, and then the last 3 pages. And then lastly, if all that is not satisfied, it's just going to show 1 dot 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 and then the middle, the current page minus 1 and current page plus 1, which is what we will see if we go to any middle page. So let me just go to page 10 and you will see that's what happened. We have only 1 dot 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 and then the middle. So that's just what that function is doing. It's returning our list for us, but that's not where the display comes in. So our display comes in from pagination.tsx, and it's actually coming from this component. And all we are doing in this component is we are having conditional styling with CLSX. So all we are saying is if our position, we are going to pass in a position, and if the position is first, we are going to pass in this style, rounded, let rounded, and that's what we are seeing here. If the position is first, you can see the first is rounded, so that's just for styling, not doing much. And then if the position is last, we are going to have the right, and so the right will be rounded. But then also if it's active, which if it's active is equals to true, we are going to have this style. So I hope you just understand the general perspective. So it's just for styling. That's what this does. Okay, my PC is low. And like I said earlier, this is just for this middle part, this dot 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 you are seeing here. And so this dot 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 and the active page cannot be clickable. They are not links. So that's what all this component is about. And then this is where we use the component. We map out all those numbers we are receiving from this function. We are going to map them out here. So I hope you just get the hang of how it works. And with that, we have come to the end of this tutorial. Thank you for watching.